Welcome to ICLW 2020, the 13th International Conference on E-Learning in the Workplace, and our first online-only event. I'm David Guralnick, the conference chair, and I'll be here with you throughout the conference. I miss seeing friends and colleagues, both old and new, in person this year, but I'm very much looking forward to our online event, and I'm glad to see we have an audience from around the world who's been able to join us throughout the various time zones. So thanks again to everyone for being here. We've got great keynotes, we have lots of talks, we have our Friday panel discussion, lots of other interviews and surprises. Dr. Ryan Baker, Dr. Antonella Poche, Dr. Tim Brock, lots of sessions, lots of various things. As we go, please feel free to participate and contribute. This is a conference, even though it's an online conference. We'd love to have you be part of it. So please feel free to tweet about the conference using ICLW and as the ICLW hashtag. And if you have questions or comments for our speakers, please post them in the chat and our team will monitor them and get to them as soon as possible. So we're very happy to have everybody with us today. Our team will be on Twitter with the ICLW handle, and every talk will have a Q&A session with the speaker after it. So we will have questions you can ask questions during the session. We'll get them in when we can. And also please ask them afterwards during the Q&A session. We have a dedicated Q&A session with each presenter and trying to make this as conversational as possible as we go. Before we start, I want to talk for a little bit about reimagining learning. We're living in unexpected and difficult times right now, and among the fields that have been shocked probably more than ever is our own field of online learning. Seemingly in moments, and in some cases literally in moments, organizations and universities around the world have switched to remote learning from other methods in person and everything else. And all of a sudden, everything is online, everything is remote. But particularly due to time constraints, they didn't really get to rethink this. They went directly from one day we're in the classroom to the next day we have to do something online. And most of what they were able to migrate in that kind of time frame was very, very minimal. Right? So you get some lectures, you'll get some discussions, you'll get some tests. That's about all you're going to be able to get. So it's a simple format, and that's all they're really able to do. So what we have an opportunity now is to take advantage of the interest in online learning. It's such extreme interest right now. Everywhere you go, people talk about online learning. Right? You say you're in online learning and people say, I need that, I want to do that. What do you do? Tell me more. Which happened sometimes in the past. It happens all the time these days. So we have this great opportunity. We can rethink, reimagine, how can we use technology to create educational experiences? How can we improve workplace performance? There's been work going on in these areas for years. I've been in the field since the late 80s, early 90s. I think when I started in simulation-based learning in the late 80s and early 90s, if I looked ahead to 2020, I might have thought, we'd have something a little different as an educational system and as a workplace learning standard than we do now. Active learning, critical thinking skills, lots of different things that we can do. But we haven't had that. And we have now a chance where there's some of that out there, but we have the opportunity to really, really change things. And that's what I'm looking to do. One theme that I believe in very strongly is the idea of using technology to humanize learning. Personalization, I think, is part of that. But more than that, it's in addition to that, creating experiences, valuing skills over information, facilitating active learning, putting people in really good situations, interesting situations where they have to make complicated decisions, think through things, help them learn how to make those decisions, weigh the risks versus the rewards, decide what's true, what's not true, evaluate, think through, be inspired, be inspiring, look at the goals of the workplace and society for people, for the economy, and for the world. And a lot of what we have in sort of on the simple side of online learning now is it best going to help people learn to perform their jobs or perform a task when things go as planned. And to live in the world, whether it's the workplace or out in the rest of the world, you want to put people in a position where they can not only pursue their dreams, but be prepared for the things they're going to encounter in real life. And technology, in my view, can really, really help us with that. What I want to do now is kind of walk through an imaginary future demonstration. And this one's kind of more of an education, lifelong learning example. And I've got some workplace examples coming later in the program. So let me show what one possible future might be. Okay. So here is someone in around his 20s. He's probably a student of some kind. He's in his room. He wants to learn about ancient Greece. So, you know, he could read a book, he could Google ancient Greece, he can still do those things. What we can also do in this world that maybe isn't so far away is turn on his interactive system, which projects three-dimensionally into his room, and take a look at what he's got, right? So there's ancient Greece. He can go take a look and say, oh, wow, is that the Acropolis? Well, who's he talking to is a question. You might wonder, who is he asking this question to? And he could be asking that of friends who are online with him, but he can also be asking that of an AI coach. And that's what we have here. So we have an artificially intelligent coach who says, you know, there are a number of buildings known as an Acropolis in ancient Greece. There's not just one Acropolis with a capital A, but there is one with a capital A. The word Acropolis means highest point. The Acropolis, which you recognize as the famous one, and it is the Acropolis. And that's a capital T and a capital A because it is indeed the Acropolis. So she's there, she's available, she's going to help him through things. And she's artificially intelligent, understanding what he's saying. And again, this is not a world we're quite in yet, but it's a world that we can imagine. So he then may ask, well, did the Acropolis always look the same over the years? Has it changed? You know, it doesn't seem like it's changed. It looks the same now. Look at it, you know, look at today. And she said, well, we don't really know everything about it, but let me tell you about one major addition. So again, she's an AI coach who's interacting with him, right? She's not just answering the question, but she's providing something that he might find interesting. And maybe she's leaning on information that she has in her you know, in her intelligent database about things that he might be interested in. So she doesn't necessarily have to say, hey, I thought you might be interested in the entry gate that Pisistratos built, but she might actually be aware of that. So he says, you know, let's take a look, and she can put that up. Let's put this up on his wall, which we're all looking at, and this was the entry gate. All right, well, this is actually new to our friend. He wants to know who this even is. Who is Pisistratos? Tell me more. And in fact, she can. Okay, so he's from 561 BC to 527 BC. He's the son of Hippocrates, who we may have heard of. He comments that everything's just bigger than he imagined. So that's a quick part of an example. And then suppose that he left the virtual world and visited modern Greece today. Okay, well, momentarily imagine a world where we're traveling frequently. Once again, which will come sooner than this program. But here he is, and so he might be there with, you know, perhaps with some actual crowds in real life, and he could have the AI coach with him in some form, whether it's via a headset or something ideally, you know, much more subtle as time goes on. He can have the AI coach helping him feel like, hey, you know, remember when we talked about this? You saw this when you were exploring ancient Greece. This is what it looks like now. Any of the things are possible. Any of these things experiences. Any of these kinds of experiences are there and really, really interesting. So what are some advantages of this experience that we just saw? One is this was experiential learning, right, in a very realistic context, right? He got to see ancient Greece in a realistic way and then visit modern Greece. There was coaching guidance. So here's an educational concept, right? So he had the AI coach. He had the coach with him as a mentor, helping him through things. He could ask questions. The coach might point out things that were interesting to him. All sorts of things that he could do. He got feedback from a coach and potentially from his peers who might have been online with him during any parts of this experience. Okay, so maybe he says something that, you know, somebody wants to clarify. Maybe he raises an interesting question. Whatever it is, he's able to do that. There's a lot of learner control here, and I think that's a key thing. You know, the old education model is the teacher stands in front of the room, the professor's in front of the room and tells you, you know, what you need to know, right? The trainer stands in front of the room in the workplace, tells you what you need to know. First of all, it's not so much about what you need to know, it's what you need to be able to do, including thinking through things and performing skills. But also there's been sort of a battle for control in a certain sense, where learners feel they need more control, and absolutely they should have more control. But at the same time, we don't want to lose what we have in terms of expertise. And here it's artificially intelligent expertise, but it is expertise nonetheless. So the learner is control. He can decide, I'm interested in ancient Greece. I'm going to pursue that interest. But then he also has someone to help him. He's not simply, you know, at a loss for what to do next. He's got a coaching component that can help him through it, help him figure out what he might find interesting, give him an introduction. Maybe he's brand new to the idea, whatever it is, whether in the workplace or elsewhere, he's got that opportunity. And this is an immersive, personalized experience. It could have even been more doing than we showed. Okay, so we saw just a little bit of what this experience could be like. One thing that is at the base of any of these kinds of experiences is the concept of learning analytics. As I mentioned before, that the AI coach, in order to know what to say to our friend here and how to handle our friend here, needs a lot of data, and a lot of data in general about ancient Greece and modern Greece and all sorts of other things, but also a lot of data about him, and that's where the analytics come in. So she may well know what he's interested in. She may well know things he's been interested in before, things he's struggled with, things he's been good at, what are his skills. All of these may be things, there are some privacy issues, but all these are things that an AI coach may know and take advantage. And when you think about when you've worked with somebody who is, when you've worked with someone who is a coach or mentor to you, you see a lot of that. They get to know you. The more they know you, if it's the right fit, the better they can help. And these kinds of learning analytics can help us on a tremendously large scale. Which leads me to our opening keynote. And we're absolutely delighted to have a world expert in learning analytics with us, Dr. Ryan Baker from the University of Pennsylvania. He's an associate professor there and is the director of the Penn Center for Learning Analytics. They conduct research on engagement and robust learning within online and blended learning. He's built predictive analytic models that have been used to benefit hundreds of thousands of students. To already see the large-scale impact that Ryan's work has had. Over 100,000 people have taken his MOOC, and I think more to come. He's the founding president of the International Data Mining Society. He is currently serving as the editor of the Computer-Based Learning in Context Journal. A lot of other things. We could fill slides and slides with his qualifications. He's co-authored papers with over 300 colleagues. And with that, what I'd like to do is turn the floor over to Ryan Baker. So Ryan is going to talk to us about learning analytics, potential opportunities for e-learning in the workplace. So in the in-person conference, we would ask you to applaud as you welcome Ryan. You can do that. We believe in simulation, so you can do that from the comfort of your own homes. And we are really delighted to have Ryan here. So I'm going to turn it over to Ryan.